I Testify is about testifying of what Jesus Christ has done and can do in each of our lives. Through testimony of people just like you and through study of His Word, our prayer is to encourage each follower of Christ to be a light in this world. So let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16. Hello and welcome to I Testify. Today on the show we have Haije and Sarah. And you two are team members of a nonprofit organization that works out of Southeast Asia. And it's called Unjai. And they are here to talk to us about their experiences there. But actually, you two didn't meet at Unjai. You actually met before that on a mission trip.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, before Unjai started.
Yeah, so we're both in Southeast Asia doing mission work. I was there for about a year before Haije came and joined, and it was there that we met, and then after about a year of knowing each other, then Unjai was formed.
Yes.
Okay, and so there is actually a difference between a mission trip and mission work, which, can you tell our viewers what the difference is?
Yeah, I think many times when we say mission trips, it's more of like a very short 2-3 week trip. But this was actually a year of service.
So this is something that you have devoted a longer period of time in your life to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it seems very beneficial in the sense that you're not in and out. You get to establish relationships, build rapport with the community, and make more long-lasting impressions on those who you came to minister to. Was that your experience was like?
Yeah, it's actually amazing. We were staying up late last night just talking about stories because Haije just came back from visiting, and yeah, just sharing stories about our local friends that we made there, where they are now, what they're doing, how God has changed their lives.
Yeah, and like Reed said, the difference between like a very short mission trip versus being there for a year is that you actually get to see more of what's happening, get to know more of that culture, but then also be able to assess more of the needs in the country that you're in. Yeah.
So the follow-up is something that you can personally experience as well.
Right, exactly. And I think that's actually, it was such a blessing being in a place where, I guess this is where we say, so I'm a physical therapist and I actually went there not wanting to be in that country because I wanted to be in a place where I could actually use my medical specialty. But then I was asked to actually go to a country to teach English. And so things didn't really make sense to me in the beginning. But being there for a year, you get to see more of like the needs, especially health, education, and farming. Yeah, it was brought up to my attention, and then that's when I realized, God, you need to actually send somebody to do something about these needs. And that's when I actually met a friend who is a co-founder of Unjai. Her name is Gina, and then she and I became very good friends, and we thought that we should actually start something. And then from then on, Sarah, so since she was there already, she actually also joined.
So you two went separately, doing this mission work to this country, and then met there doing what were you doing?
We were both teaching, which we had never done before.
Really?
It was very uncomfortable.
Very good at it.
No, it took a lot of effort, trial and error. But
so you were both teaching English?
We were both teachers. So we went with Adventist Frontier Missions. They sent us to Laos and sent us to Southeast Asia and gave us an assignment to become teachers. And yeah, so it was there that we started to develop relationships with students that became very meaningful, and we're able to discern the needs of the people there too.
And so what age did you teach?
They ranged from junior high to...
I had adult class. I taught beginner English, but that really helped in me knowing more about the local language because a lot of them, of course, it's a beginner English class, so a lot of them didn't really even know how to speak English. So then I actually had to learn the language in order to teach English to them.
You didn't know the language before you went there?
No.
And so neither of you did?
No.
Yeah.
We had to put in a lot of effort to learn. So
Yeah, but knowing the language, you're able to really connect more with the people. And it's fun. It's fun knowing the local language.
You seem to have maybe sparked an interest in how you ended up in these countries. We don't know if more than one per se, but how did you get there in the first place? How did you end up wanting to do missions to begin with? You mentioned that you saw a need and you wanted someone to be sent.
Right.
So you went.
So I didn't see the need before I actually went. I actually was just asked to go just to teach English, more like friendship evangelism.
Who asked you to go?
The organization that I signed up with.
Why did you sign up?
You know, during that time, I was in a low point in my life, and then I realized that God wanted me to go somewhere else. So I took a break from my work. I took a year break, and then I went. But I was really hoping to be sent to another country where they actually needed medical people.
Okay, because you were doing training in physical therapy and you
Yes.
want to utilize that skill in the mission field.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some people feel like they need a break from school, but maybe they're down and out, or they're not sure if this is where God's leading, and so that maybe they take a vacation to go to Hawaii for a year or go to Thailand for a year, but you decided to do mission work. I mean, it's far different. So why mission work? What made you think that would be the answer to your question?
You know, it took a lot of praying. It took a lot of struggle with God, but I felt like He was actually calling me to go on missions. I actually signed a 2-year contract where I was prior to going to this country, and my 2-year time was coming to an end, and I just kept telling God, you know, you called me to go to this place, because I believe that He actually was the one who called me to go work at this place where I was at. This was in Northern California. And about the close of 2 years, I told God, you called me to go to this place, then where should I go next? And that's when He actually, you know, after reading the Bible and praying to Him, He really said, you know, you should go. And I didn't know where I was going, and yeah, I didn't really have any idea, but He just said, you should go.
You took the first step, which is being willing to go.
Yeah.
And you applied to Adventist Frontier Missions, and then they sent you to the country
Right.
where you were going to learn English, which is contrary to what you wanted to do in the first place.
It didn't make sense.
And that's where you met Sarah.
Right.
And Sarah, how did you end up being introduced to going to Adventist Frontier Missions?
It's really interesting because I think we hear most commonly, oh, I can't do mission work because I'm not spiritually ready. I don't know the Bible in and out, things like that. And that was me. Actually, the same year that I went to this country was the year that I got converted. So I grew up in the faith, but I left the faith for about 10 years, and God called me back. And at the time, before I was converted, I was working at my dream job. Thought I was on a great track, but I was still feeling like I wanted to do some sort of public service. So I was looking into joining the Peace Corps. I was applying for that, and I went to a camp meeting and I heard a testimony of a missionary in India, and God just touched my heart and said, this is the way that I should serve. So that was when I quit my job. I joined a ministry locally in Northern California called Life and Health, and it was there that the executive director directed me to AFM, which then sent me to this country. So it was really just in this country that I started to read the Bible. It was in that country that I learned what it means to serve God and love God and be an example. And to anyone who thinks that they have to be so prepared before they go, I think it's just a willing heart that you need. And I think I'm an example of that.
Oh, praise
Yes,
God.
So
Praise God.
you had the experience, the practical experience of beginning to have a relationship with God at the same time that He was using you as a tool to bless others or to witness
Right.
for him.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and it's actually it's pretty practical too, because here it can be so distracting. But once you're overseas with the specific mission of being a missionary, it gives you a lot of time to actually utilize what it means to be a Christian. Yeah.
So can you tell us, as you were beginning to talk about the benefits of learning the local language, getting to know the people, can you give us an experience or two that you had that you just remember or that means a lot to you with the local folk in that country? Or maybe an experience with learning the language, teaching?
I had a lot of blunders learning the language.
Blunders.
But then actually that created friendship because I asked them, like to teach me how, and then they're so willing to teach also. And I think just by spending time with them, and then not just really about the local language, they're so willing to share also their food, and food is always a good thing.
Yes.
And that
Brings
really
people together.
Right, yeah, exactly. It opens up a lot of opportunity. And
Yeah, I do have a story. There's one of our dearest friends now. Her name is Nut, and she was my student. And I just noticed her because she was always the leader of the class, but not necessarily in a good way. She was a troublemaker. She would basically bring an armload of snacks, drop them on the desks, and the kids would just have a party basically as class would start. But she was always interesting because she, in her writing assignments, she would talk about her dreams, like what she would want to do in the future. And she also told me one day that she doesn't know anything about grammar. So this isn't really a story about me learning the language, but about how language kind of brought us together. So I told her I would help her after class. I would help her learn grammar, and we started up a friendship. And that friendship just grew so quickly because I think she just never felt genuine care of someone who is just so unselfishly interested in her. And that wasn't me. It's Christ-like behavior. And she quickly got embedded into our missionary circle, and she started to do Bible studies. And after about 2 years, she gave her life to God, and now she's a big member of the Unjai team in Laos, and she is ministering to her family, her friends. Sometimes she'll just pull out her phone and find someone that she hasn't talked to in a while and just say, "Hey, do you know about God?" And then she'll just talk to them about God, which in this country, no one knows about God. So they're always curious.
I actually have another story about language. So since I taught beginner, I met a lot of people, of course, again, who didn't really know the English language. So we have a friend now. Her name is Mali, and it's so beautiful. And so just recently, she came upon this pictured frame in her living room, a picture that she bought many years ago, but it was really cute, and it had English writing, which she didn't really understand during that time that she bought it, but she bought it because it was so attractive to her. It's that picture where it's a precious moment, little boy, holding like this big teddy bear, and it had English writing. And then so not too long ago, about 3 weeks ago, she was telling us the story of how when she looked up in that picture, she was able to read those words now because now she knows English. But the beautiful thing was that those words, it said, "Jesus loves me." And it's only been recently, and it's very heartwarming because when you hear her story, she grew up as a Buddhist, and like through a series of events of how God has been touching her heart, drawing her to her, so beautiful, to even when she bought this picture, when she didn't really even understand it, God was already telling her how much she loves her. And yeah, she's just so happy because seeing that picture is just an affirmation of how God really endured, pursued her. And she's actually getting baptized in a month's time, and she's part of our Unjai team.
Really?
Yeah,
Praise
beautiful.
God. Yeah, it's amazing how God works in our lives even before we
Right.
realize He's working in our life. Same with you coming to the Lord.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing those stories. So you were mentioning that these friends of yours, these local friends of yours, they are also on the Unjai team. Can you tell us a little more about what Unjai does?
Yes, so Unjai, really the thought behind Unjai is really sustainability and I forgot that word, but anyway.
Mentorship?
Yeah, mentorship. Yeah, thank you. Sustainability meaning that eventually we want the local people to really be the ones leading Unjai, because when we go to mission trips, a lot of people usually come back and say, wow, that was really a beautiful experience, but really the lives that were changed is usually the volunteers, and then the local people's lives continue to be the same. But we want this ministry to where later on local people will be the ones spearheading it. Yeah, so that they will not rely so much more on foreign aid. For them, they will be the ones to really be doing the ministry to their friends.
Absolutely.
So the work that's going on right now, it's really based on the needs that we saw as we were developing these really meaningful relationships with people there. And it started with an agricultural training farm. So that's, people always wonder why agriculture when this country is a very lush green place with these colorful markets and whatnot. But people don't realize that there's a lot of corporate agriculture that's coming in from outside of the country, and just so heavy on the pesticides that the people working on these farms, which are the local people, they're actually dying because of the exposure. So we wanted to again mentor and empower these people to be able to sustain their own lives without having to work at these farms by teaching them organic principles. And yeah, that was our first project. And then just naturally out of that grew Unjai English, which is just this beautiful program for the children of the farmers in that area where the farm is. They don't have access to English school, and in a country like that, even though it's so small and closed, you still need to know English in order to have any opportunities. So these children really don't have any opportunities to learn English. So every Sunday morning, the Unjai team and just a truckload of volunteers, local volunteers, go. They drive about an hour and a half out to the farm,
Just one
and
way.
then they set up these straw mats on the ground and outside under trees, and they just learn English with the farmer children. So it's really amazing because the volunteers that are going, they're middle class, upper class, and they're going out to teach these blue collar children something that they have.
Right.
So I see that, and we can see your logo up on the screen, the Unjai logo. It's basically grown out of this love that Christ has, and then I can see it has something to do with agriculture as well as something to do with just spreading the love of Christ or growing the love of Christ. And I think it's such an important concept that you have made it sustainable, the longevity of the blessing that Christ gives to them. And not only that, but the education that you're giving the children, that has long-reaching effects. So, and all of this grew out organically.
Yeah.
That's,
No pun intended.
yeah. Oh, Reed.
And none of us in the team actually have had an experience in creating an organization. So all of us right now in our team, we are actually all over the United States. So it really just by God's grace of how this ministry continued to grow. And Unjai, actually, like how you were describing is really what Unjai is about. Unjai in English, it's actually a local Lao word. Sorry, a local word, but it means in English warm heart.
Warm heart.
Yeah.
We got that name because we would hear our students use that word whenever they would describe their families or their close friends. They would say unjai, and that's exactly what this group is. It's not just some, company with this hierarchy. It's a family, and
Right.
people really feel that when they join our group, when they volunteer, they feel warmth and acceptance, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you had 5 core members on the team, but then you have those that are local to the community. How many community members do you think are participating in Unjai?
There is about, I think there's about, I don't exactly know, but the last time where I was there, there's about 10.
10 regular staff, but I would say over 50 volunteers
Yeah.
that come in and out.
Yeah.
Wow. 50 local volunteers.
Local volunteers that would just come. They're young kids. They're
Really?
high school, college, working professionals. They range. We've had celebrities come regularly that were our friends, and we've had, house cleaners come, and anyone really.
Yeah, it really is a place where people feel. So we have what's called an Unjai house, a house that we rented over there in the country, where people really just consider as their second home. And every day you'd hear the gate open, and then one person would come in, and they just really feel it's such a safe haven that people just feel so at peace. People actually go there and ask to sleep there because that's where they find rest, like good night's rest. It really has just been really a center of influence. So Unjai, again, it means warm heart. And like you said, it's such a blessing to be able to be a part of a ministry where you really also, by working in this organization, you also get your heart warmed by the ministry that we actually do. It is a blessing. And so our focus right now is actually health, education, and farming. And we want to, so right now we have the farm, but we hope to later on start a vegetarian cafe and a wellness center, all to creatively share the gospel in a country that is so much in need of hearing.
So you mentioned sustainability is important to you, not only just the sustainability in the gospel, but maybe even in the ministry.
Right.
So how do you fund the housing that you supply, and is it through the agriculture that they grow, or is it through dues, or is it through just volunteers here that provide funds?
Right, that's a very good question. So right now we're not a sustainable state. We're actually, all of us in our team, we're all working. So we all have our full-time jobs. And that's how, so during our travels and everything, we're actually spending out of our pocket. There have been very generous donors who've also been donating monthly to help us financially. So that's really been very helpful. But we also need funds as well to sustain all the projects that we have.
So I do want to hear more stories about the experiences that you've had while working at Unjai. But before we get there, is there a verse or two from the Bible that you feel represents Unjai?
Yeah, so one I would say, when God calls us to do something, He really will not just leave us behind. And it says in 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 24, if I get that correctly, it says that He who calls you is faithful, who also will do it. And God really has faithfully also done His work, going before us, going with us, so patiently waiting for us to do stuff. And He really has been very faithful. And just an affirmation is that the farm that we actually currently have right now, when Unjai didn't even have a name and we were like talking to people, somebody came and then through a person, and she said, I don't know you and you don't know me, but I heard about what you're trying to do. I have this 6 hectare, which is equivalent to about like 12, 14 acres. She's like, this one I bought, I don't really know what to use it for. Take it and use it for God. So that really was also an affirmation of how God really has been leading, and He brought people along. Even our logo, it was actually by a person that we just met traveling. So God really has been doing His part, and really, it's just really a privilege to be able to do this work. We cannot say it's because of our own power.
Very good.
See that?
I guess, and one other thing too is that in Romans 10, where it says, you know, how will people know
Unless they are
about
sent.
Exactly.
How will they hear if you not preach?
Exactly.
Blessed are the feet of they that preach the gospel. You know?
Right. Yeah. So how will people know if you don't go?
Yeah.
And that's really what Unjai is about.
When we think about our staff that are there now, they're young again, and their hearts just burn for God. He is their everything. And when we think about how they were when we first met them, they were lost. They felt lost, and they felt alone. And to see them so full and so just thriving the way that they are right now, it really makes us think, like, how could people not go when there are so many people who are alone?
Is the person or a new friend, a person that you've befriended there, who you see has changed the most from Unjai? I know there must be tons, but maybe the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, go.
So Anan was Haije's student, and when Haije left, she went back to the States after her time was up, and then I stayed on, and he became my student. And we invited him over to our house one night to have worship on Friday, because there's this whole other thing called Lighthouse that hopefully Haije can talk about later. But on Friday nights, we have people over. Anyone can come over to our house and have dinner and have a worship together. And he came over. He's just a very bright, funny, popular guy. And he just came because he's usually willing to go anywhere. And then he stuck around until the end, and I said, how was it? And he said, he just started crying. He broke down and told me his entire life story and how he had been abandoned in his life and just had no idea what his life meant. And from then on, literally just like an arrow, he just chose God. He came to Lighthouse every Friday night after that. I think just continuously since then. It's been like 2-3 years. He came out to church with us once, and then from then on, he just went to church on his own. He didn't need our leading or anything, and then it was so amazing.
He's actually leading out the Unjai English.
Yeah, so after I left, he started leading out Unjai English. He's now the coordinator of that.
Right.
He last April, I think it was last April 2017,
When he was baptized.
him and our other friend, we walked to a river, and they got baptized in the river, and it was the happiest day of both of their lives, as they say. And
Amazing.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. I'm sure that there's plenty of other stories you could share, and I hope that others have been blessed by these stories, and maybe you want to consider doing long-term missions yourself, that you may have a story of your own. We want to thank Sarah and Haije for sharing their testimony. We pray that you were blessed. Please check us out on LLBN.tv for further donations and for watching previous episodes. God bless.